Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soul Seekers podcast, where we believe that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure, as we share our mission of mentorship is conservation. To learn more about everything we do, check out our show on Carbon TV or go to soulseekersnation.com. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. Do you want to become a better shooter, reduce flinch, protect your ears, and just overall enjoy shooting your gun that much more? Then there's no better way to do that than by adding a suppressor to the end of your barrel. Be sure to check out Huxwrx Safety Co, as they are a leader in the suppressor world with their OSS Flow-Through Technology, virtually eliminating blowback and toxic gas that can affect weapon system performance and shooter health. To find out more about Huxwrx, go to huxwrx.com. That's huxwrx.com, and go get yourself a suppressor for your upcoming hunts. This podcast is also proudly brought to you by OnX Hunt. When I first got into hunting, I kept hearing all about public land and different access and how to find different locations to hunt. I was like, well, how are people even identifying all this stuff? Well, sure enough, I came across the number one hunting GPS app, and that is OnX Hunt. If you guys want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, OnX Hunt is the number one GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust OnX Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. It was a game changer for me, and I know it's going to be a game changer for you if you've never used it. If you have used it, you know the power that it holds. Guys, I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you want to know more about OnX, go to onxmaps.com/hunt. And check out their app. Be blessed, freedom on, and stay soulful. All right, guys, if you're in the market for optics, I want you to go check out blackdiamondoptics.com. Black Diamond Optics offers world-class sporting and tactical optics, including thermals, all at wholesale pricing, direct to consumer. They are going to be partnering up with us for 2023, and I want to start pointing you over towards their direction. Check out Black Diamond Optics. If you've got any questions about it, shoot us a message. Love to hear from you. Be blessed, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and today I am joined by a fellow hunter, bear hunting enthusiast, all-around amazing individual, and probably one of Instagram's most wildest and memorable IG names I've ever come across. That is the man, the mustache himself, Rodger Holscher, out of the state of Idaho, known on Instagram as Backcountry. Is it Baba Yaga? Well, how do you pronounce your name?
Yeah. It's I'm sure you've probably seen the movie John Wick.
Okay, yep.
Yeah. So in the first one, they call him Baba Yaga, which is kind of that Eastern European Russian for boogeyman. Well, they explain that he's not exactly the boogeyman. He's the one you send to kill the boogeyman. So it's just, I don't know. It's kind of one of those things that I really enjoyed that movie. I was like, all right, well, this will stick. So, and it did.
I love it. When I saw that the first time, I was like, what the heck is this? Because I've seen John Wick, but it's been a long time. And I just haven't gotten around to watching a whole lot of them. And so
now you're gonna have to.
Me. I know. Now I'm gonna. My buddy Thad, he just freaking loves John Wick, and it's crazy to think that what's his name, the actor, he actually is a gun enthusiast and trains.
Yeah,
he does all Keanu Reeves. Yeah, it's insane. Yeah. So Rodger, what's been going on in your world? You just got out of the bear woods out in the state of Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
How was that?
It's kind of similar to last year. Very. Not the best weather. You guys are going to hit it probably just right with the weather. We had a real late winter this year, so there was a lot more snow up in the areas that we usually go than normal. So that affects obviously bear habits and where they're located.
Well, let's talk about it, man. Don't be all shy on me.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to give away your spot.
My spot, dude. It ain't my spot. It's a God's spot.
Public land. Yeah.
Dude, right? Public land. Dude, that's a whole topic in itself. Let's talk spring bear hunting just real quick, because there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about with you. You've, over the last year and two, you've really slayed some animals, really been able to notch your tags and hang your hat on quite a few mature animals, and had some quite the experiences both
Yeah.
not only in the bear woods but the elk woods as well. You shot a monster mule deer this last year, but you are just all around kicking butt. You became a father this last year as well.
Well, a couple of years ago, 2021, I had my first son. Well, my first child, my son, and then about a month or so ago, my daughter was born. So, father of two now.
Congratulations! It is wild. I guess it was in 2021. I saw you last.
Yeah.
Man, time flies.
At the show.
Time flies.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
so I missed you guys at the show this year.
I know you didn't make it down to Old Salt Lake.
I know.
Something about a pregnant wife or a newborn baby or something like that.
Yeah, pregnant wife.
It happens. I know. I feel like my hunting journey, you can't live life in the rearview mirror. And with that being said, I started hunting when I started having young children. And I was like, ooh, this is like very awkward timing. My wife's like, there'll be plenty of hunting seasons. And I'm like, I only have like 35 left, or, depending on like how you start looking at it like that.
I just said that the other day to her. We were talking about me getting out more because it's just kind of this spring bear trip was the only trip I was going to be able to do this spring because I got some fall stuff planned and I don't want to spread my wife too thin. And, I was like, hey, man, if you think about it, I got about 10 more of these left because then I'm going to start taking my boy out. So, it's like, it's kind of, you sit back and think about it. Holy cow, I don't have that many, I guess ahead of me, the way that we're doing it with the backpacking and stuff. I'm sure my boy will get there, but once he's young enough, I want to focus more on, or once he's old enough, I want to focus more on him and making him successful rather than backpacking in.
Oh, totally. I agree. This idea of backpack hunting is so epic, and like it's kind of like the whole manifest destiny, right? Like we're meant to just go coast to coast, and when we filled up the coast to coast, the only last place to go was up, and so we go up into the mountains, right? It's spiritual. It's where a lot of people go for their spirit quest, to get close with God, to get close with nature, the universe, like all of that. And so ultimately, I'm looking at my hunting season this year, and my oldest boy, he killed his very first deer this last year. He shot a buck.
Which I remember that. That was a good one.
I was just like, heck yeah.
And then to eat your son's buck, dude. I remember you talking about it on a podcast. I was like, oh man, that was like the ultimate right there.
The ultimate. I don't think he realized how powerful it was for me and his mom to sit down and eat the meal that he provided. So it's something that you get to look forward to for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But here I am in Texas, and I'm not even thinking about shooting a buck this year in Texas. I'm thinking about getting my kids on deer, and then I want to make doe hunting great again.
Yeah. That's a good one. You need to make a t-shirt.
Make doe hunting great again. I think we're going to come out with the episode in Soul Seekers for season 4.
You're just slaying does.
Yes, we're planning on teaming up with Graxaw Game Bags up in the state of Missouri. Got invited up there. And then down here, it's different. Like Idaho, Washington, Oregon, you get to shoot one deer, right? So it's like, I got to shoot my one deer. Well, down here, I think it's 4. And it's like $1 per county, or sometimes it's $2 or, it's wild. Like you just start slaying meat and putting it in the freezer. I'm about that lifestyle.
Dude, and I had buddies that I worked at Bass Pro back in the day, and one of my buddies' dads was going back to Arkansas, and he's like, oh, they'll give you 9 tags. And I was like, what? And he was just stacking them up.
Right.
Like, holy cow.
Right. I will say I've seen some big deer down here, but I've also seen some small deer. So I can imagine. So I can see why you want to shoot quite a few. But also, there's deer all over the place. There's deer feeding like almost every day in my kids' elementary school playground. Like
that's awesome.
Yeah. I posted some pictures, videos of some bucks this fall, and that was across the street from the elementary school. I mean, deer down here in Texas, they're all over the place. It's wild. Yeah. It's wild. I love it. Especially
you guys get some mule deer too, though.
Yep.
Like right up in the, I guess up kind of closer towards Oklahoma and stuff up in that area?
In the Panhandle, and then out west you'll get some mule deer that you can go chase. But Texas, it seems like there's something always in season that you can go smash on.
I love it.
I love
those
it.
Pigs. We were just talking about pigs, man. I grew up in California. We used to hammer the pigs.
What part of California are you from?
I'm from northeastern California originally, but then I bounced all over the state through college and sports and everything else. So,
like east of Weed?
Yes, actually, probably about an hour east of Weed. That kind of Shasta, McLeod, or Shasta, Lassen, Modoc County area up in that northeast corner.
Yep.
Yeah, we played weed in high school. You can imagine the banners, like they were usually like our homecoming game, right? Like, oh, smoke weed, yeah.
Right. I had one of my teammates from high school went and played at College of the Siskiyous down in Weed, California.
Yeah, buddy.
The JC programs, it's fun. It's fun down there.
Yeah.
But you're an athlete yourself. So what'd you play?
Played football and baseball in high school, and then college baseball, junior college.
There you go. What position? Wait, let me guess. Were you a pitcher?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say that or a catcher with that mustache.
Yeah. Definitely. Nah, I pitched. I played really shortstop, third base, pitcher in high school, and then I couldn't hit very well, so migrated to just pitching in college. But
hey, get in where you fit in. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
Well, let's talk a little spring bear here for a second.
Cool.
So you just went out into the mountains of Idaho. Now, the spring bear season in Idaho starts, mid-April, I believe?
Yeah, it depends on the unit. Most of them start April 15th. Some of them, depending on the unit, obviously, April 1st. And they generally go to June 1st, June 15th, or June 30th, kind of depending on the unit.
April 1st, the more that I have studied spring bear hunting, the more I'm like, that's really early. That snow line is low. Those bears aren't very active. I mean, it's fun to have a longer season, right? Don't get me wrong. It makes competition thin out and spread out as much. But you ended up booking your trip mid-May, or I guess early May. What's up, Soul Seekers Nation? Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really appreciate it. As a reward, I have some discount codes for you to use if you are in the market for a brand new hunting pack. Go check out initialascent.com and Initial Ascent packs. They are made in America. Their one-piece carbon frame is an absolute game changer. We run their packs. We love them. And you can save 5% at checkout by using the code SOULSEEKERS. That's all one word. Also, for those of you who are archery hunters and you are tired of shooting at dots on a target, check out deadnutsoutdoors.com for their lifelike 2D archery targets. You can save 20% on all of their products by using the code SOULSEEKERS at checkout. Once again, the code is SOULSEEKERS, all one word. Go check out initialascent.com and Dead Nuts Outdoors. Enjoy the podcast.
Yeah, first of May is usually when we go, just kind of as a marker. Trying to go with multiple different guys that work for other agencies, and they just trying to line up days off together. So we just kind of set a May 1st date, just the way it's been.
If you had the choice, now if it wasn't up to other people and you trying to figure out schedules and everybody, what days would you go spring bear hunting?
Man, and just talking about this is, I would rather be, obviously being a local and being able to kind of choose your days, I would try to go around the weather and the snow line and stuff like that. But if you had to like book one trip, or you're coming out of state like you are, I like that May 1st. You're going to end up running into some weather like we did. But you can generally go a little bit lower, that 4,000 to 4,500 elevation, and you'll probably be okay not running into snow. Where we were at, it was like that 5,500, and we were a little bit too high this year just because of the late snow we had.
Yeah. I was doing some online scouting with OnX and just really diving in. And what I found is, using my knowledge from last year when I went to Idaho and hunted, we went middle of May, like May 16th, 15th. And it really wasn't that green yet.
Yep.
Found the bears a lot lower than I expected. And even on that, they weren't necessarily dedicated to just the south facing slopes. Actually, we shot at one bear that was on a north facing slope.
Yeah.
And then another one we spotted on the north and it crested over like to an east facing. I was really surprised that just Idaho, just in general, it, the amount of game that it can hold, the terrain, it's phenomenal. It's like, where do
Yeah.
you pick your poison, right? Like, okay, you want to go to this bowl or this draw or this creek or this drainage, and you just
Yeah.
start. You'll find animals.
100%. We were counting hundreds of elk and deer a day, and it was cool to see on the hillside, but it's like movement. Oh, no, it's another deer. Oh, it's an elk, and you're not what you're looking for, but it's cool to see him out there on the hillside.
Right, right. You have been known to take quite a poke at distance. When did you start getting into shooting and overall long distance shooting, and then taking that and applying it into your hunting career?
Man, I guess I've been shooting since I was a kid, right? But it was your typical grab a gun out of the gun safe and go, you know, if you could hit a pipe plate at 100, you can go hunting kind of a deal. And it wasn't until, and then I just was almost strictly archery from the age of 14 till I was, I don't know, probably in my mid 20s. Through law enforcement, I got into a lot more shooting, handgun stuff, carbine stuff, and then had a couple buddies that were big into the kind of the long range stuff. They like doing that. One of them ended up being a SWAT sniper for a neighboring agency, and he's the one that kind of planted the long range bug. We'd go out to a rock quarry and just plinking steel at, at the time it was, I don't even know, 400 yards, but it was still like the longest shots that I'd ever make, and it was super fun. So I started diving into that more and doing my own reloading, and then kind of manifested into building guns and doing a lot more of the precision, geeking out on that stuff.
I love it. Over the years, what has been your longest shot you've taken on an animal?
The bear last year at 600. I practice out to 1,000 plus, but it's pretty rare. I almost shot at a bear this spring at 890 off of my tripod, but it was we ended up seeing some cubs with it, and so we didn't take the shot. But
dude,
yeah,
shooters shoot. That's what I always like to say. Shooters shoot.
yeah,
You miss every shot you don't take. At the same
agreed.
time, we have to hone our craft. At
Yes.
what point do you feel like, okay, I'm confident enough to go apply this on an animal, with variable,
Yeah,
elevation, terrain, all that?
you kind of, once you get past about the quarter mile mark, the 440, you start getting into a little bit more where if your data's not right, if you haven't gone out and improved it or adjusted the density altitude for the area that you're hunting, that's when you start noticing gaps in your vertical and when wind starts really affecting things. You could have a 15-mile-an-hour wind, and if you got a fast enough cartridge or a good enough bullet, you're not going to really see a huge effect in the wind until you get past that quarter mile mark. So it's pretty easy to do up until that point, and then after that, it takes a lot of practice. Just for like a reference, just this year, I guess in the last few months, I think I've built and shot over 500 rounds out of a 300 short mag. So that's just in preparation for bear season. And then last year for deer season, I built a 6.5 PRC, and I shot over 600 rounds out of that one rifle just to get ready for deer season. So that's probably the extreme. Most people aren't going to shoot that much out of a hunting cartridge, but that's just kind of what I like to do. So I just do it.
I love it. Do you compete at all? Are you doing like NRL Hunter Series or anything like that?
No, I haven't yet. That's definitely something. I built that PRC. I got basically the same 6.5 Creedmoor to do for the NRL Hunter stuff, but I've been working Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday for a long time, and I'm actually switching in June to working Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so I'll have weekends off to be able to go do those competitions.
I love it. I love it. I'm sure everyone's wondering, what caliber are you shooting where you're thinking about taking a poke on a bear at? You said 960 or 890? What was it?
890. It was 890. Yeah, it was my 300 WSM. I'm a big 30 cal fan, but I also carry around a 12 and a half, 13 pound rifle. So,
all right, everybody, thank you so much for listening to this episode. As a thank you, I got more discount codes for all of you. If you are in the market for anything in regards to calls, whether it's elk calls, turkey calls, deer or predator calls, you can save 15% on all Rocky Mountain hunting calls by using the code SOULSEEKERS. That's all one word. And if you're in the market for hard side hydration, a better way to hydrate, go check out hardsidehydration.com. Use the code SOULSEEKERS10 to save 10%. And we also have a discount at Graxaw.com. That is, Graxaw is the leader in ultralight game bags and other backcountry gear. Light, fast, and efficient is their motto. Use the code SOULSEEKERS, all one word, to save 10% at checkout.
I don't care about the weight, because I build rifles for shootability and not necessarily for weight.
Right.
And it's not exactly your standard 300 WSM. Let me try to grab it. One of the loads, but it's your standard like SAMI spec 300 WSM is loaded to 286, so 2.86 inches.
Yep.
And these ones that I'm loading are 3.30, I believe they are 3.3 or 3.32. So they're on a long action. I got a long throated chamber and loading some 210 grain bore riders at 2,700. They're some bad medicine, but they're it's fun to just tinker with that stuff. It's not something a guy needs to do to shoot at those distances, but it's just something that I got bored and it was like, I'm going to try this and mess around with it. But
how many different calibers do you actually carry that you could go hunt with at any given moment?
Unlike most people, I do not care about shooting something with a 6.5 Creedmoor. Everybody's like, oh my God, you can't shoot I'm sure you've seen the memes, right? But I will shoot something with it. I haven't shot one with a Creedmoor yet, but I hunted last year with a 6.5 PRC, and I really like that cartridge. It's obviously loaded a little bit different than you can get off the shelf. I shot both the bucks with a 153 Hornady A-tip, so it's a match bullet, but I'm not shooting them at the speeds that a lot of people are like, oh, you're going to just have a catastrophic blow up. And I don't want that bullet to exit. I want it to go in and just explode, high shoulder shots, and just anchor everything.
Yes.
I don't like tracking things, Johnny. So I like to watch them drop where I shoot them. And that's as far as they go.
I freaking love it. Did you get a chance to catch the episode I did with Seth from Hornady?
Yes, I did.
What'd you think of that?
I like Seth. I like all the Hornady products. I've done a lot of killing with the Hornady bullets, but
I'm putting you on the spot, by the way.
I know. I know they don't recommend the match bullets for hunting and stuff, but I kind of prescribe to the Aaron Davidson from Gunworks kind of philosophy on things. I want the most accurate bullet I can get to put it exactly where I want it, and something that's a little bit thinner jacket. I build a cartridge for the, I guess, kind of the mid to maximum distance that I'm going to be shooting.
Yeah.
And kind of adjust accordingly if it's a closer shot. I don't want to have like that 890 shot on that bear and go, man, I don't have enough retained velocity at that distance, say with a monometal bullet, to reliably expand it at that distance, and so I just won't take a shot. I want something that I know is going to reliably expand at those distances, and then if it's a closer shot, it's still going to punch through a shoulder. I shot that buck, general season buck last year at 440 off my tripod downhill, and it destroyed. I'll have to send you the pictures of it, but it just completely crushed that buck. And so the November buck I shot, the big one, it was only 110 yards. And I just, instead of going high shoulder, which I probably should have, but I just tucked it behind the shoulder and it just destroyed his insides. He took 3 hops and died in 5 seconds on a double lung heart shot, just done. So I don't necessarily prescribe to you got to have a specific, like a bonded. I'm not a huge fan of bonded bullets. Or monometals. Actually
you like the cup and core, huh?
Yeah. So saying that this cartridge, the long action short mag that I just did is a 210 grain Patriot Valley Arm Cayuga. So it's a lathe turn copper bullet. But they're supposed to expand down to like the 1,600 feet per second range. So trying those out this year. We'll see if I decide to shoot those during the fall or not. I was hoping to shoot a bear with it just to see, but I have a hard time, Johnny, keeping with the same bullet every year. I like to tinker with stuff. So,
dude, okay, so check this out. I, on the other hand, am like, dude, I don't want to have to go find ammo or buy a bunch of dies and work loads. So I, in my gun safe right now, have 3 6.5 Creedmoors.
Dude, yeah. So I'm more of a bullet guy. Like I want, cartridges are just the delivery mechanism for the bullet, right? And so I'm more picky about the bullets and the caliber, not necessarily the cartridge. And a lot of people poo-poo on the Creedmoor, but I think it got a lot of people shooting that wouldn't necessarily do it and shooting more accurately.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Well, so I was, for the longest time, I was like, oh, I got to sell this rifle, or I got to sell this rifle. And then I was like, wait a minute, what am I doing? I have 3 boys. Of course I have 3 Creedmoors, because now each child will have their hunting rifle that they get to choose.
They can't share either.
No.
They can't share. Those boys will not want to share their rifles.
No, I will tell you this. The father to father, here's all you listeners out there who are new to having kids. Having kids is a great excuse to buy guns. Mm-hmm. So if you don't know this already, I built each one of my children their AR, probably when they were either before they were born or very young in age. And so, down here in Texas, I wasn't planning on living in Texas at the time, but that's a legal caliber for deer.
Mm-hmm.
So, now they have a deer rifle, and they'll have a bigger caliber if we want to go chase something else. So
there you go.
Here I am, just like, wow, I really worked this one out really nicely. However, I am looking, and we're going to be getting a rifle from Seekins Precision, one of their Havoc elements.
Baby.
And I requested in a 7 PRC. So
it was supposed. You and Will, Will's getting the same one, right?
Yep, it was supposed to be here in time for our spring bear, but dude, everybody wants a Seekins rifle. It seems like.
A buddy of mine, I recommended. He actually went out and bought 5 boxes of ammo and doesn't even have the gun yet because the ammo has been hard to find. And I was like, oh, you'll be able to find the rifle. And he wants a Seekins Havoc PH2, and it's just they're unobtainium right now. But they're
right
when he gets it, it'll be nice.
When we recorded an episode with Matty Nelson back at the Hunt Expo, we were talking to him about let's get a discount code for all the listeners in case anyone wants to get on the Seekins game. He's like, dude, that'd be awesome. But we can't work that out until we have some rifles available.
I was going to say, until they can catch up.
So,
dude, and so I actually told my buddy, I was like, hey, if you want a gun, like there's the Havoc PH2s and 6.5 PRC are, more available, and the ammo's all over the place right now. I like that 7 PRC cartridge. Not because it does anything new that the 7 Rem mag wouldn't do. And, everybody's like, oh, wow. But it does it in a factory chamber and a factory cartridge, right? So you don't have to tinker with like what I did. It's just kind of an out of the box deal. But I don't want to mess around with it. I'm not going to mess around with it for another 4 years or so, just until components can come back. Because I hate playing this whole game where you're paying $5 for a piece of brass. Like, I'm not playing that. So that's actually why I got on the 6.5 PRC last year. I was like, all right, I could get brass, I can get bullets, dies, everything else is readily available. So
Yeah.
that's when I went with that chambering.
Well, here's a progression that I talk to a lot of newer hunters. They always ask me, "Oh, what caliber should I get? What caliber do you recommend?" And I always tell them short actions because
Mm-hmm.
I want personally, and I would recommend to others, I want you to shoot your gun as much as possible and not feel beat up by it. And so
100%.
my very first hunting rifle was an AR-10 in 308. This is back, early, well, shoot, man, I guess like 8-9 years ago. Back when AR-10s,
Was it an arrow?
uh,
The arrow precision?
one of them was. I actually had 4 AR-10s at one point.
That boy.
I had a Porsche Boxster convertible, and I put it up for trade, and some guy offered me 2. One was a Nemo Arms, and another was a Christensen. Back when these were just hitting the market, so the price tag on them was phenomenal. And then now I'm now I don't have either of those guns, and I'm like, oh, I wish I had my car.
Yeah, right.
But so I got into hunting carrying an AR-10 in 308. I was like, oh, dude, I love ARs. I might as well, have a gun that I want to shoot and can hunt with. And so from there, I was like, oh, short action. And I just got a 6.5 Creedmoor at the time because that was about the time they were hitting the market and people were talking about them. And it hasn't done me wrong yet. I haven't shot an elk with a rifle because I always archery hunt. But I've shot bears and deer and
you are better off with that 6.5 Creedmoor and buying ammo and being able to comfortably go out and practice with it and work on you, because in the whole totality of your system, you're going to be the weakest link, right? You could have a quarter-minute gun, but if you're a minute-and-a-half shooter, that quarter-minute gun is going to be a minute-and-a-half gun. I would much rather see somebody get a 6.5 Creedmoor 308 and actually go shoot it a lot and get good at their positional shooting and just fundamentals of everything, rather than go out and buying a 28 nozzler and not being able to afford, more than a box of ammo, or it's just beating you up. And so you're not going to want to shoot it more than, 5 times before hunting season. You're going to be so much better off with that Creedmoor, personally.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's exactly why I like to point people down that road. Let's talk about something you said earlier. You said you were ready to shoot at this bear at 890 yards off of a tripod. I had Matty Nelson from Seekins Precision on. This was probably last August or September, and we actually specifically talked about shooting off a tripod. And his response was, and he's newer to hunting, so it's not like, he's this big backcountry hunter, and, we're actually planning on taking him and mentoring him on a hunt here coming up, which I'm super excited about.
Yeah. Tell him he's got to wear that cowboy hat too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So with that being said, we talked about shooting off a tripod, and he said, what is your goal when you go out into the woods, when you go hunting? He goes, is it to see animals or is it to kill an animal and bring it home?
Yep.
And I'm like, well, yeah, it's to kill an animal and bring it home. He goes, then you bring whatever tools provide you the best opportunity to accomplish that. Period.
Couldn't agree more.
Because if it's it doesn't matter how heavy it is, if it's one shot, one opportunity that presents itself, you want to be able to seal the deal. You don't want to have regrets. And so he was talking about bringing in a tripod and packing it in. He's like, I don't care how much extra weight it is. Get it up there. You won't regret it. So, you talking about shooting off a tripod, how large of a tripod are you using? Because there's everyone carries a lot of people carry small tripods, lightweight, compact, that they're using for spotters and for binoculars. But you can't shoot off those very well. So, or
if you choose the right one, you can.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong.
And so I got a couple tripods that I take. One of them is a 436. It's the Leupold Pro Guide 436, I think is the model number. 4 legs. It doesn't have a center post, so it makes it a little bit harder to glass off of. You kind of got to get the legs just right to glass off of them. But that's a good tripod with a ball head. It comes with a ball head, and it's like 44-pound weight capacity. I always like to look at the weight capacity. I let Chris borrow that setup this year for going out, but my dad shot his spring bear last year off of that tripod. He shot his buck last year off of that tripod. Um, I think I shot my buck this year off of that, or the November buck off that tripod. But last fall, I also used, and I brought on this hunt. It's two vets sporting goods. It's called the Ruck.
Yep.
It's got a center post, and generally with a center post, you're going to have a little bit more wobble in the system just because it's an extra extension and just where some play could be in.
Yep.
But I found it can be really stable. You just lock it down properly, and a lot of the stability comes off of the head. You get a good 36 or 44 millimeter head on that thing, and it's got plenty. I think it's a 33-pound weight capacity on that tripod. And with the head that I have and that tripod, I think I'm right about 3 pounds, 3.3 pounds, something like that. Which, people are like, oh, get this slick 624, and it's like a 7-pound weight capacity, and it's only about 6 ounces lighter. Like Matt said, right? Like that's why I have a 13-pound rifle, because I want that thing. Weight generally is reliability, and I don't build my rifles to hit a sub such and such pound. I build it for comfort, shootability, and and it's crazy how much more stability you can get and how much more accurate you are. A buddy killed his spring bear a few days ago off of shooting sticks at 240 yards, something like that, and he was just all over the place. He was missing here and there and left and right, and when you can lock into a tripod and be super stable, especially my father. He can't get prone. He's had neck issues just from being a welder all of his life. And so he can't get prone. And so the best stability for him was a tripod. And I had him shooting 500 plus yards, hitting rocks. And you just can't believe how much more stability you have off of a good tripod.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. So I actually carry two vets, No Name Junior. I don't even know if they offer that anymore. It's kind
I
of
think
like
it's discontinued.
Yeah, so it's kind of that in between. It's small and lightweight, but it has a removable center post if you
That goes straight up from the.
Yes, I go straight up, but I don't ever carry that with me.
No. That's how that loophole is, and I have it if I'm gonna just use it for glassing from the truck, and I need it for standing. But other than that,
What do you think? So one of the biggest issues I've had with some ball heads, and actually I'll just say it since it's discontinued anyways. The No Name Junior, the ball head, the mounting. Let's see here. The ball head has a post on it, which then has the platform on top. I would have the issues with that platform twisting and stripping.
Yeah.
So, are you shooting off a saddle, or are you hooking straight into that platform?
I'm clipping straight in. I got rails on the bottom of my rifles. I use the rifle I'm looking at. It's mounted on it's a Phoenix, Graybow Phoenix. I know you love that stock too. And so I mount on the bottom of that M-Lock. I mount Sam River Solutions rail, Arca rail on the bottom of that.
Yep.
And I clip right in. There's on the loophole and on the Ruck, there's set screws that come up from the bottom. That plate for once you screw down your ball head, you can zip those set screws up, and so it keeps that ball head from twisting. Like if you were locked in and you moved a little bit kind of towards the unlocking side, it won't release that head. Yeah. So I don't know why the No Name Junior doesn't have that. If you look,
no, it has. No, I know what you're talking about. It has it from the bottom. I'm talking about the one that goes from the top down.
On the plate.
Yes, from the Arca.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
I put some thread locker on that, and I just reef on it because it's never coming off. So I don't mess around with that. I lock tight all my stuff or use Vibra-Tite, and I really reef on those things, and I don't want them coming.
So when you're carrying your tripod so here's the issue, like for us, is we're filming. So every tripod is dedicated to a camera at some point. So it's like, if we're going to run our 400 millimeter lens, Well, you
Yeah.
need a tripod to support it, but that's also the tripod that we're shooting off of. So it's like all of a sudden we're getting tripod heavy, and this is the curse, the
filming curse.
the filming curse of like
Yeah.
you carry all this extra stuff that other hunters just normally don't carry.
Yeah.
I will tell you though, we're dropping episode 1 of season 3, June 6th, Tuesday, June 6th.
Carbon TV still?
On Carbon TV. And if it
Yeah,
wasn't
buddy.
for camera gear, Will Weber, who took his first shot at a black bear last year,
it's that hunt?
would have been doubting himself the entire time. But what we realized, and you'll see that on the footage, is out of this entire, like, I think it's 480 yard shot that he took, there was like a 1-inch branch off of a dead tree. He smoked that branch.
Oh,
and I'm like,
no.
come on. And we were like, why did you miss? Why'd you miss? You feel comfortable? And I got home, put it up on my computer screen, and I'm like, where did his shot go? I'm like, wait a minute, that branch is missing.
Oh, because you're trying to play it back on that little LCD
on the little
screen on your
viewfinder.
camera, and you can't see, but yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's coming out June 6th. Hey, let's talk a little bit about your elk experience this last year. You had quite a story.
Yeah. Oh man. We'll start it from, I guess, last year or the year before. So we've been hunting the same area for a few years now, and we kind of run into the same guy. Ends up being a good dude. We chat quite a bit every time we see him, and we ended up a couple years ago helping him pack out his bull for him. Just he killed one kind of down where we were wanting to hunt. It's like, we're here anyway. Let's just make this easier so you can get out here and not kind of stink up the whole basin. So we helped him pack out his bull a couple years ago, and then this year I was up solo. Chris wasn't able to make it because he had a newborn son at home, so I was out solo, kind of hunting the same general area that we usually do. I'm not seeing anybody in the area that I am. Elk are quiet. I had one encounter with a bull the day before, big 6x7. I messed up and probably tried challenging him when I shouldn't have. I should have just stayed silent because he was running a line and he was going to end up crossing this ridge that I was on. And I messed up and tried calling him instead of just cutting him off and ambushing him. But anyway, another guy, the same guy that I helped pack out that bull the year before, was watching my encounter with this bull, but he didn't see me. He just was watching this bull coming up the same ridge that I was hunting from an opposite ridge. And so he made the plan to hunt that bull the next day in that draw coming up from the bottom. Well, I was camped at the top, and so I came down at the top. Kind of the same deal, was just trying to be quiet because nothing was bugling. So I ended up cutting off probably, I think, 8 cows and one 6-point bull that was with them. And I stayed close enough and kind of was jockeying back and forth up the hill, keeping the wind right, and followed them down into the timber. And they bedded down, and I hung out above them a couple hundred yards until the wind was right, kind of midday. And then I was just planning on still hunting through the timber, not making a peep, and kind of the whole going only as fast as you can quietly. And just kind of what we used to do growing up in Northern California, hunting deer, just still hunting through timber. And I ended up getting a shot at this bull at 40 yards. He had no idea I was there. Double lunged him. Felt like a great shot. He took off running down the hill. I started making phone calls and text messages about, hey, I'm going to need some help packing this guy out, Well, I waited about an hour and a half and then started tracking down the hill. And I started hearing, somebody coming, and I could see feet on the other side of this tree. And I was like, hey, Hunter, hey, just to make sure I didn't get shot. And I peek around, and as I'm peeking around this tree, I was like, hey, man, you didn't happen to see a dead bull on your way up the hill, did you? And he was just the one on my back. And I turned the corner at the same time, and he's got the bull that I shot on his back. And I was like, no way, that's the bull I shot. And he was like, no, man, I was sitting down here. And I was like, wait, hey, you're that guy. And so it was the guy that I ended up packing out that bull. And so we got to chatting, and it turns out I shot that bull, and this guy was silent too, doing the same tactic just from the bottom. and I shot that bull, and he ran downhill. So I shot him on his right side. It didn't exit. I watched it not exit. It ran downhill, and he shot it from the left side, but he heart shot it, and I think it was probably knocking on heaven's door when it got to him, because he said it would just barrel down the hill and then stopped in front of me, and I was like, that's because it was dying. But so he heart shoots it. It dies in 20 yards, and he starts cutting it up. The whole time I'm just waiting for it to die, he's cutting it up. And it's kind of like, I gotta want to believe you, man, because there's this kind of an outlandish story. I don't know if you could just make that up. And he showed me the arrow where it's all bloody, and he's like, man, the carcass is right there if you want to go look. And I was like, nah, man, I trust you, but trust but verify. So I wanted to make sure, and I went down there, and sure enough, they I'm sorry, hold on a second. Sure enough, entrance on one side, entrance on the other side, and he didn't know the shot was away from the bull. And you're probably not sitting there analyzing the carcass when you're in a hurry to get a bull off the mountain, especially when you're solo and at the top. So I don't blame the guy for not looking. And so I actually shot and killed a bull, and somebody else shot and backed it out. And just kind of one of those weird situations, but I'm glad it went down the way it did. And it was like a legitimate mistake, or not even a mistake, but just a legitimate. And he wasn't just trying to take credit for the bull that I shot.
Did he end up giving you half the meat?
No. And I wouldn't have wanted that. I mean, that guy, and people are like, oh man, he should have given you that bull. You shot him first. But like, man, he'd already taken pictures with it. He'd already cut it up, called his wife, told him, because we compared times, because I was like, I don't think he quite believed me that I shot it first. And I was like, no, look. And I, did a, oh my gosh, I just shot a bull video, and we compared times, and it was a few minutes before he shot his. And called his wife. So it was legit. He just was in the right spot, I guess, at the right time. And
that is wild. Did you
kind of a live rep?
Yeah. Did you ever find your arrow?
No, I didn't. No, the bull broke it off, and he didn't have it in him. I should have probably cut open the chest cavity and pulled out the broadhead and everything, but I was kind of down in the dumps a little bit about it at first, and was like, man, I still got a few more days to hunt. So I packed out of there and went and tried to find another bull.
Dude, that is a heartbreaking story.
Yeah.
Especially because you would think, like, I guess it just goes to show we don't live in Hollywood, right? You don't always have these magical endings where you help the guy pack out the year before, you shoot this bull, now he's there to help you pack it out. He ends up shooting it and then taking it himself. Like what's up with this?
Yeah. No, he's a good dude, man, and I'm happy for him. That was actually his second bull he killed in there that year. He was able to get a second tag, and he's a killer, man. He kills bulls in there every year. So we just had the right tactic, and I chalk it up as a win just because I made a game plan on those elk. I didn't call. I didn't get stuck in, you got to call. And I just completely silent that whole day and made a play in on these elk and killed an elk. Legitimately, just didn't get the packing out part, but.
Would it have been your best bull to date?
No, I think the 5-point actually the only elk I've killed is a 5-point. It was a bigger, this 6, it was a kind of a spindly 6. Rackhorn 6, but still, and the worst part, man, is I made all these phone calls because I hiked up to the top and I had cell phone service, and I was calling people, all excited and everything, and then Dennis was coming, a couple other guys were going to get off of work and come, and I had to send a bunch of texts and calls and like, hey, stand down, and everyone was like, what do you mean stand down? And I had to re-explain that all to everybody, kind of put salt on an open wound, I guess.
Hey, ain't that the truth? Dang. Well, hopefully your kind-heartedness and good soul gets rewarded this year.
Karma, right? Gotta have good karma.
Right. Hey, let's hop back onto the bear topic real quick, because there was a question I forgot to ask you. When you are doing scouting for spring bear hunting, how are you narrowing down what you're looking for?
Man, I use a lot of Mark Livesey's stuff. You ever heard of his
Yeah,
Tree Line Academy stuff?
Yep.
Yeah, man, I'm a huge believer in that stuff. And just he's not reinventing the wheel like a lot of the stuff. He puts all that information in a condensed area, and getting his gosh, I forget what he calls it, but his toolkits is what they are, and being able to use the different layers. And my big thing is the snow layers, especially in the spring for bears. Getting those live, or I guess the daily updates on the snow layers, and you can get the snow melt analysis, so you could see kind of how quickly the snow is melting off, and the kind of the ground temperature, just to get an idea of, okay, the snow stopped at this point, on this date, and I try to keep it about a week to 2 weeks, before I can get in there. Not just, okay, there should be no snow there, but I want no snow and an extra week or two for the growth to happen, because it could be no snow there, but it's going to be brown and cold. There's not going to be any good growth.
Yep.
So that's what I look for mostly. I like looking for drainages that are kind of running north to south, because you can get that bowl. So I guess if the head of the basin is to the north, then that whole bowl in the north side of the basin is getting hit with the sun. And then you have the west facing slopes too. You get a lot of good growth on the west facing slopes, get that afternoon sun. So I like kind of looking for those things in areas that I can run ridges and look into multiple basins from the same ridge and not kind of get pigeonholed into one. I like to keep my options open, and I like to move. I don't like to get stuck in one area. So there's a lot of it's having multiple plans and multiple areas that you can go. And I'm not opposed to going into one area, going nope, and packing and getting out. Just you got to find that amount of time, and if it doesn't look good, it doesn't look good. I'm getting out and going somewhere else. Generally,
Man, ain't that the thing? I think that's something that a lot of hunters probably hang up on, is the fact that they're like, oh, well, I only have this much time. It took this much time to get into this location. I might as well just stick it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've ran into that. That's one of those things is, yeah, you could sit in there, but you gotta go where they are and not where you want them to be. So if you want them to be in this one spot because it looked good on on X or on Google Earth or whatever, and you get in there and you're like, this does not look like what it should. It's not green. I'm not seeing what I want. The balsam root flowers aren't blooming. It's not going to get any better in the 4 or 5 days that you're there. Back out, go somewhere else to where you're getting that stuff that, you could e-scout all you want, but when you get boots on the ground, you see it, don't be afraid to cut your losses right there and bounce and go somewhere else.
Right. How many places do you typically keep in your back pocket on a hunt? Do you do the plan A, B, and C like what Livesay likes to do?
I need to get better at that organization. I'm really not. I don't write it down. I know he's got his hunt plans, and that's probably a really good idea, but I just, e-scout a bunch of different areas and different elevation bands. And okay, if I go into this one and it's, it's not looking like it should, there's not the green up that I want to see, then I'll go to my next elevation band down. Or you could see on a hillside, you're glassing down this hillside from 5,500 feet, and you can see all the way down to 4,000 feet. And you're going, man, it's real green around that 4,000 foot. I'm backing out, and I'm going to try to go to a area that I've picked out that's around that 4,000 to 4,500 foot band.
Yep.
And using that stuff it's really good. And you get into the earlier stuff, the mid-April, you could probably get into a lot of that country where you're getting them out of their den. But when you're hunting them in May, they're not going to be in their den.
Right. I've never hunted bears that early. So I've hunted spring bears twice. The first year I filled my tag, but that was on June 5th. I shot my bear with a 6.5 on 6.5. Hey,
there you go.
Come
baby.
on now, don't get any better than that. But that was also the year that COVID hit, and so I was planning a trip in April, end of April, beginning of May, but in the state of Washington, do you remember the world just went?
Everybody
cuckoo.
shut down.
Like,
yeah,
you can't hunt. I was like, I waited 6 years for a spring bear tag, and now you're telling me I can't hunt? because
Yeah.
I'm going out in the woods to be by myself.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
But you could go to Walmart. You can go to Walmart and be packed into that one little area, but you can't go out by yourself in the woods, man.
Dude, it was such a joke.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all things worked out and did that. And then this last year we went up with Dennis and Joe from Initial Ascent Backpacks and had a great time. Did our very first out-of-state hunt, and we're going to be returning. Unfortunately, Joe and Dennis are not going to be meeting up with us on this go-around. But, dude, getting back in the woods is a special thing, especially bears. Dude, bears has my heart. I've never shot a mule deer, and I plan on it at some point. But ultimately, it's like if I'm planning a trip, I gotta plan a bear hunt. If I'm not getting out chasing those critters, I ain't living right.
Well, and if you don't kill one, your tag's gonna be good for the fall too. And I plan on filling mine in the fall. I got a spot where I deer hunt where I had multiple bears in this basin last year. I just decided not to fill my tag on them.
Yeah.
Because I had a second deer tag. You could get it. So a non-resident deer tag in Idaho, you can downgrade to a wolf, bear, or mountain lion. And I had a second deer tag. And so I was like, is this one worth tagging, this bear or a deer? So I held out for the deer. But
yeah. Well, I mean, some people don't really like mule deer meat that much. I think bear meat might beat it.
Dude, it's my favorite. Bear meat's my favorite. I love it. And I don't know if it's just the guy that I have doing it, because I have it made into either breakfast sausage or hamburgers, and like, getting deer made into hamburgers and everything else. It's just, you could totally taste the difference between the bear and the deer. And I much prefer the bear. Like, I will take bear burger over elk burger, over deer burger. And everyone's like, what?
Dude, it's so good. So good.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me about this. Because last year on my spring bear hunt in Idaho, I saw a wolf. And I had a wolf tag, and this wolf was under 100 yards from us. I was sitting there glassing this hillside where I saw this bear the previous evening, hoping that it was going to come out in the same location. And, it's like one of those things where, like, did I actually see that? Like the peripherals.
Right.
And I'm sitting there, and, like, these pine trees, there's a gap of about a couple feet from where it greens up to where you see the stump to the ground. And I'm like, man, why is there a dog all the way out here? And all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, that's a freaking wolf. And I grabbed my gun and I tried to chase it down, but it disappeared like instantly. How often do you see wolves when you're out hunting out there?
So I've never actually seen a wolf while I've been up here. I've heard them. I've had them howling in the basin. I was elk hunting in and just never got a chance to see them. A couple years ago, elk hunting, I was on one side of this ridge, and I had texted a couple of the hunters that I'd ran into that were deer hunting, and I saw a nice buck in there, and I was like, hey, he's in this basin. So we were on opposite sides of this little knob, and they text me like, did you just see that wolf that just ran by? He just went right over this ridge. He had to run right by you, and I didn't see it. And that scared the crap out of me, because you're like, holy cow. They're like, oh, he's just a black wolf. And I was like, where? So, that. And then the bear I shot last year, I think a wolf had bayed him in the willow bottoms that I ended up shooting him. And so when I went on the far side of the ridge where I shot him and tracked him down the hill, there was one wolf track. So one set of wolf tracks in his tracks going down this hill. So they weren't, they couldn't have been 10 hours old. And I think, and they followed him all the way down into this willow bottom. And this bear, he was injured, but he probably should have legitimately been going further than he did. And I think it's because this wolf bayed him like hounds do, just in this willow patch where he was able to put his back, into this willow patch and defend himself against this wolf. Cause he was there when we got there in the morning, and he rightfully probably shouldn't have been there, but I think that wolf bayed him in there.
That's a wild story. I remember you posting that on social media and being like, what the heck is going on? You held like 4 cases, 4 spent shells?
7, I think.
7.
Yeah. He sucked up 6 of them. But that for bears, dude, as long as they're still moving, I'm still shooting at them.
Yeah.
So I've hit him the first shot. He was flopping around on this ridge. I sent another one as he was flopping just to get one in him. and that one missed as he was flopping around. And then he took off running down the hillside at 600, and I hit him on the run at 600 in the neck, and it crumpled him, and he rolled down the hill. Well, I thought he was dead, and we get in there the next day, and he's bayed up in this willow patch. And I shot him once at like 20 yards, and then he kind of hunkered down again, and I shot him another, I think, 3 times in that creek bottom at like 15 yards before he expired.
Shoot them till they're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be a hair-raising experience.
It was definitely. I had my guys with me, and they're all good shooters, and I know they had handguns and rifles too. So it was like, yeah, a little bit of a comfort blanket, but it was still like after the first shot, he laid down kind of in a creek bed and was facing me, and through my scope, I could see his eyes.
Yeah,
and he was just looking at everybody. He kind of hunkered down real low, so I didn't want to skip one off of his forehead or anything or put one in his eye. So I was just like, all right, I'm going to hang out here until he gets up. And he did. He got up, and I don't know what he was going to do, if he was going to charge or try to run, or if he was just getting up. And then I just kept shooting him as he was flopping around in that creek bottom.
Yeah, that's
and
wild.
I'm not about that wounded life, so I try to put him down as fast as I can, and I just don't trust a wounded animal. So,
right. Bears are very similar to hogs in that aspect. They just will eat bullets. They are tough.
My first pig I shot. So I didn't have, like I said, I was a big archery guy when I was hunting pigs. And so I went once. Actually, I went a couple times after the academy. And I had a 22-250, thinking that was going to be enough for a pig. I had it for coyotes. And I shot one pig, double lung, broke front shoulder, kind of a thing. Thought he was dead as I started walking up. He took off running through we had depredation permits in a cornfield, and you were hunting them through water checks in the corn. And dang thing, I shot 2 pigs that day. One of them I put right behind the neck, anchored him as I'm walking up. Same thing, gets up and takes off. And I was like, all right, I'm done with this 22-250. I'm getting us. So I brought my dad's 308, and then I found that pig 2 weeks later, still alive. And I ended up killing him with that 308, but he had a broken front shoulder, and that bullet went clean through double lung, and he was still alive. Those things just have a will to win like no other, man.
Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy. Well, brother, I want to wrap this show up here just a little bit, but I want to say thank you so much for coming on. It's been a long time. I've been wanting to get you on the show for quite some time. It's always fun to connect with people through social media. Then you meet them in person. Then you get to sit down and record a podcast with them. I'm just like, I love it. I love it.
It is.
What's your plan for the future? What do you got going on for this year? You obviously, your wife you and your wife had second. You got littles at home. You got to make sure you put in your time where you need to. But our heart still calls for the mountains. So
it does.
How does that play out?
I'm kind of gonna do more of not necessarily like legitimately guiding, but my dad's got a deer tag up here again, and he's got his first archery elk tag. So I'm gonna pretty much dedicate my September to trying to get my dad a bull. And then October, my dad's got a deer tag, and my uncle's got a deer tag. So it's going to be the first time my uncle's deer hunted in a long time. And to have both him and my dad together. And I remember growing up, before Idaho had like units, like it was just, you got a deer tag and you went hunting, right? And they used to horseback into a lot of these big basins, and actually very similar unit to where I hunted that November buck, which was pretty cool, that I kind of hunted the same ground as my dad did when he was younger. And so hearing those stories and seeing all the pictures growing up, it's going to be the first time my uncle and dad are going to be deer hunting up here again for a long time, or since, been a long time. So it'll be pretty cool to kind of show them the areas and try to get them a deer and pack them out and everything. It's just kind of coming full circle almost, because I remember them taking me and my cousins hunting for the first time, deer hunting and everything, and those kind of deer stories and camps and everything. So that's what I'm going to be dedicating most of my fall to, is to getting both of those guys tags filled.
The progression of a hunter is such a fascinating story. You start off being young and being like, I want to shoot. anything. Like if it's alive, like let's go get
Yeah,
after it.
yeah. If it's brown, it's down.
Right. If it's brown, it's down. If it flies, it dies.
Yeah, right.
All that, and then you get into this aspect of like, okay, now I've started to fill tags. I want to start holding out for mature animals.
Hmm.
And then I love the mentorship aspect, because after you start filling tags and maybe you have a good representation of a species or two or whatnot, passing on that knowledge and getting to see the joy of someone else actually filling their tags,
Yes.
that is something that if people would take more time in experiencing, it's super rewarding. And
100%. Yeah.
being there for somebody else. And then ultimately, when you get older and people are putting in the work for you so that you can still get out and do it. Like, how old's your father?
Probably, I think he's 60. So my uncle and him are about a year apart. So 59, 60, both of them are.
Oh, so they got quite a few years ahead of them of getting out after.
Yeah, they've both got some, I call it city miles on them, just because of bad knees, bad backs, just working men that have just beat their bodies up over the years. But
yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, Rodger, hopefully I'll get to see you up in Idaho. I don't know what that's going to be like. You might have to meet me at the airport or something
you
like
flying
that.
into Boise?
Flying into Boise. Will and Tony are picking myself up and a mentee, and then we're hitting the hills and getting after it. But I mean, if all goes out well, maybe we come out early and have some stories to tell.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that, definitely. And if you need any gear before you go, if you forgot something, I probably got it in this garage.
Dude,
especially if your gun doesn't make it on the flight, I got you.
Okay, perfect. I'm knocking on wood right now. I want my gun to make it, but yes, that is
right. Did you always hear those horror stories though, right? Like,
yes.
So
yeah,
I got you if you need one.
I love it. Well, I will say there is a layover on the way to Boise, so
Ooh.
that's the
that's scary.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not flying direct, so hopefully, and then I'll be seeing what it's like to fly meat home. Getting figuring out. I started to think about it. I was like, okay, airlines charge a certain amount of money for like overweight packages, and I was like, well, it's probably cheaper though to just buy coolers, fill them up with as much meat as possible, and get home in 6 hours, than it is to buy dry ice and leave it at a processor and pay for that shipping, and
Yeah, and boy, it's been a long time since I've flown, but even the having coolers and renting a car and driving it back, I don't know if that would be cheaper or not either. I don't know. That's tough because Texas, it's got to be a 24-hour drive at least, right?
Yeah.
Like I haven't looked, but it's got to be and nobody wants to do that.
It's 19 hours from my place to Salt Lake City.
Yeah, so that'd be about 24 hours because it's about 5 hours from here to Salt Lake. So
Yep. So it's like, whoo, baby. I know.
Yeah, it's a trip.
I have to start thinking outside the box now. I've never been a one for credit cards. I don't really believe in them, but I'm like, okay, if I'm going to spend the money and I can get airline miles for a certain amount and then be like, okay, I'm done. I'll try to cash in on some tickets here pretty soon because I'm going to be flying all over the place.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, brother, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for sharing some of your
stories. Thank you for having me.
Your wisdom, your knowledge. Really appreciate your service and dedication to protecting and serving humanity up in the great state of Idaho.
Thank you.
Dude, be blessed, brother. Thank you for coming
on. You too, Ben.
Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, like, share, subscribe. Go give Rodger a follow on Instagram, Backcountry Baba Yaga. I feel like I hesitate every single time I say that.
You got it. Yeah, people are like, Baby Yagi, and I'm like, come on now.
I love it. All right, guys. Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Once again, June 6th, that is a Tuesday, June 6th, Soul Seekers Season 3 is launching. You're going to see a Spring Bear episode. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of excitement. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. I'm Johnny Mac. Rodger, freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to support the show, you can always like, share, subscribe, and leave a rating as it helps us share our mission of mentorship as conservation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of Soul Seekers Nation as we transform lives through primal adventure. If you want to get more connected with the podcast, check out the Soul Seekers Nation Facebook group, as I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. So stay tuned and stay soulful.